Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who in America on Al Hikmah TV 24/7 online. It is really indeed a pleasure to have with us in Al Hikmah studio a very prominent man of the United States of America. We have really been trying to get him for a little while now to come on Who is Who in America talk show on Al Hikmah TV. He's no less a person than federal judge Mr. Norman Hemming.
Great.
Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure. I know you're a man who have worn many caps and still wear many caps. And you are from the religious field, interfaith, you know, the legal aspect and the whole nine yards. So it's a blessing, it's a pleasure, it's an honor to have someone like you, a federal judge, with us in Al Hikmah studio. And we would really appreciate if you would share some of your experiences with our audience. We got a worldwide audience, and that's what media is all about today. Worldwide, people would love to know about you. They will learn more about America, what the justice system does,
Right.
what you do, some of your experiences, you know, your interfaith experience. You know what is unique? How you could collaborate this reverend, because you're also a reverend,
That's
this
right.
reverend career and profession together with your justice and legal profession. So welcome again, Judge Hemming.
Thank you so very much, Sheikh, and hello to all the members of your worldwide audience in Al Hikmat.
Thank
it's
you.
really an honor. The honor actually is mine to be here, because I'm just your brother. I know you give all these accolades about me, but I'm just your brother. I'm just someone who cares about the community, whether people are Muslim or they're Christian or they're Jewish or they're Buddhist or they're Hindu. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that we treat each person in the world in the way that we would want to be treated, with respect and with kindness and with love, and with the kind of love that we can get only from God.
And I have no choice but to believe you,
Right.
because, you know, I see you all over the place at all these events and all these programs. I mean, wherever I go, and I know you go beyond that. So, you know, it is really a blessing, and it's so very humane of you to take the time from your religious career, your legal profession, and your community other services to get involved in interfaith work and Muslim activities. And, you know, it's really, it takes a lot. It really takes a lot. I don't know how you do it.
Well, I do it by the grace of God.
And it's got to be. And that's so very Islamic.
Exactly. You know.
You know, I have heard you speak a couple of times, and you would now and then pitch a verse from the Quran,
Right.
and you know, and the first time I heard you talk, I was like, is he a preacher? And then when I asked you after, you were like, yes, I'm a reverend.
But it's interesting. I received my first copy of the Quran from someone who you know well. In fact, he's a Broward County sheriff.
Yes.
Right, and
yes.
he gave it to me at a care event a number of years ago.
Mhm.
And I'm silly enough that I actually read things that people give to me. So I read it, you know, and found it. And I'd read the Quran before, but I had never really read it in trying to memorize verses and trying to remember and trying to really understand what it is that this book is trying to say. But now, after he gave it to me and the way in which he treated me, I realized that this was important for me to spend the time and to take the time to understand this book. And there's so many truths in this book. In fact, it's really an extension of Judaism, Christianity. It's the last work.
You know, the Quran says that it came to confirm what has been mentioned
Wow.
in the Torah,
Right.
in the Psalms, you know, in the Bible. So it is not just an extension, it is in support.
That's right.
And it's just a modification as what has happened in the different times to the latter times.
Right.
And it's about, you know, reality, life, and the people. But we're going to get more into that conversation
Okay.
of your connection with Islam and what
Right.
you understand and what you see going on in America as a judge,
Yeah.
from a legal perspective, as a community leader, as a person who know and been there with all walks of life here in America, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as we
Right.
say, you know.
Right.
I know you deal with all kind of people, people who are racist, people who are good people, people who think bad, and that's what a judge is all about. You know, I don't really jealous your position, because I know it's a very hard thing to be a judge. It's so hard to sit, and sometimes you got to judge cases, and you look at the situation. A man may look as nice as he is, but you know he's a criminal. And then the criminal, I don't know, it's a serious thing, but you know, you are in a very delicate situation. A judge is, you know, in Islam,
Right.
we were taught by the Prophet, peace be upon him, that one of the person that will be under serious scrutiny by
Wow.
God will be a judge.
Oh,
Oh,
without a
yeah,
doubt.
a judge, a community leader. You know, because certain positions, you got to really be a real man of humanity. You got to be down to earth. You got to be humble. You got to be just. So it takes a lot out of you. It really takes a lot.
One of the things that I found in terms of being a judge that helps me to be a judge is to try to remain humble, and that's such a hard thing, right? For every human, it's hard to try to
is.
be humble, right?
It is.
Because we all like to think of ourselves as being something big and fantastic and amazing, but that's why I have a wife, because she constantly reminds me that I'm nothing. And so she helps me to
And not
remember.
only reminds you you're nothing, she probably constantly put you down.
So it's very, very helpful.
Because
Very
it takes
helpful.
one person in the world that talks down to you, is your wife, right?
That's right. And that's why I love her so
And
much.
whenever she talks up to you, it's because she needs something. That is interesting. That is
Right.
it. So tell our audience, because we're going to talk a little bit about your
Right.
connection with Islam and Muslims.
Right.
Because you know all this Islamophobia and negativity going around in the world. You're a man of various background. You were born in Jamaica.
Right.
You know, you're born in Jamaica.
Born
your
in
dad
Jamaica.
Jamaican.
That's right.
And your mom Cuban.
That's right.
Very multicultural. And now
Right.
you're a judge in America. What a combination.
Yeah. Really strange.
Really strange. So tell us a little bit, Judge Norman Hemming. That's the correct way?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good. So you're a federal judge right now. You are a doctor of jurisprudence, if we want to
Yes.
put it like that.
Right.
You're a reverend at the Cooper City Church of God.
Right.
A very massive church. I always
Right.
admire when I drive by there.
Wow.
You have also worked with the Department of Justice,
Uh-huh.
which is the U.S. Attorney Office. And as we were talking before
Right.
the show began, you were in charge and have been supervising over 200 attorneys.
That's right.
I know that's a big responsibility.
Right.
You've had experiences with the Army,
Right.
with different departments that you call base, realignment, and closure.
That's correct, sir.
Then you worked with the district attorney's office in Manhattan.
Yes.
So listen, from Manhattan to Florida, that's a lot, you know what I mean? And to have that experience throughout the United States. So I want to let you share some of these experiences, and I would love to cut in here and there that I think our listening audience or viewers would like to know
All right.
about you and your experience, because people have too many strange thoughts and
Wow.
really wrong about America.
Yes.
You know that.
Right. No, no.
Because the
without doubt.
media can be portraying the right thing, the wrong thing sometimes. It can be fake news on one side, it can be big news on the other side. So we don't know what it is, you know. What I'm saying is that, and a lot of people misunderstand what really happens. So with your experience, you can share a lot of things with our viewers. People will be enlightened.
Right.
I mean, in addition to having a very prominent person like you on our show on Al Hikmat TV,
Right.
people will be educated. And that's what Al Hikmat is all about. You know, Al Hikmat means wisdom.
Yes.
And we're all about making people wiser, better people, understand better, etc. So tell me, as a federal judge, what do you really do?
All right. So a number of things. So there are a number of different kind of federal judges. There are Article 3 federal judges are the ones that most people are familiar with, because that's enshrined in the Constitution. So our Supreme Court judges are Article 3 judges. They're appointed for life. They're appointed, but they're nominated by the President, confirmed by a vote in the Senate.
So they're
right?
nominated by the president.
That's right.
But they could be fired by the president easily also.
Well, you know, well, that's interesting.
I like
That's
that.
interesting. You should say that. So
I
the,
like
the
that.
Supreme Court judges actually cannot be fired.
So
Because they're Article 3 judges, so there are three different types of them. There's the Supreme Court justices, there's the appellate level judges, right? The different circuits that we have in the United States, and then there are the district court judges. And all three of them are Article 3 judges, appointed for life. Their salaries cannot be reduced, right? So you can't control them that way. And they cannot be fired unless they commit what's called a high crime or misdemeanor. So they have to do something really outrageous in terms of stealing money or raping someone or just...
But it's interesting that,
Right.
and I mean, why we would talk about that,
Right.
it's we're in the time of President Trump.
Right.
A man will say
right.
you're hired,
Right.
and then he can turn around and say you're fired.
Right, right.
So a judge could be told you're hired,
Yes.
but they cannot be fired by him.
An Article 3 Right.
Unless they do
A high
an
crime.
Article 3,
An Article 3 judge.
unless they do certain things
Right.
contrary to the Constitution.
Exactly. But then there are other types of judges, right?
But before we go on to
No,
the
go
type
ahead,
of judge,
go ahead.
so how come he could fire the director of the FBI?
Oh, no, definitely. All
Comey.
So there are three
What's the
different...
difference with this judge and the FBI
Very
here? now?
wise, very wise question, Sheikh. All right, so there are three co-equal branches of government in the United States. So you have the legislative branch of government, which is comprised of the House of Representatives and the Senate. You have the judiciary, which is the second branch of government, which is comprised of those judges that I told you about, as well as some others. And then there's the executive branch of government, which is led by the president. Well, interestingly, the U.S. Department of Justice falls under the executive branch of government. So the head of every federal agency is appointed by the President of the United States. Therefore, they're at-will employees of the President of the United States. He can hire and fire them at will.
Oh,
No,
I love that because the judge that he cannot fire can
Right.
come in now and make some decisions.
See that? Now you
If
have
he
it.
goes against the Constitution,
That's exactly right.
if he makes a personal decision.
So that's why you saw during the course of this whole immigration debate and whether or not these children who were coming over could be sent back home. And you saw all of these different judges at the district court level, right, issuing injunctions against the president and against the Department of Homeland Security.
Because he cannot fire them.
Exactly. They have the power
And
to
it's
do
within their jurisdiction
Right.
to make such decisions.
that. It's within their jurisdiction. But what's exciting about it, and that's, I think, is one of the unique things in America, is that these judges, they don't have any guns, they don't have a police force, they don't control the army. It's purely based on the president agreeing or not, or agreeing to take the action that the court says. But in all these hundreds of years that we have been a nation, no president has tried to go against the will of our judges, whether they're the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals or the District Court. So I mean, think about it.
Because I suppose that's what they swear to.
Exactly, to
They
uphold the
swear
Constitution.
to uphold the Constitution. And if they swear to uphold the Constitution, and the
Right.
Constitution says that you've got to listen to the judge,
That you
and the
listen to
judge
him.
rules and decides, they
Right.
have no choice.
So there was only one time in our history that someone tried to go against the Supreme Court of the United States, and they couldn't fire
Who
them.
was that?
And so this was one of our presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So what he did, in
Franklin
fact,
Roosevelt,
right? So what he did was not to try to fire the Supreme Court, but to try to increase the size of the Supreme Court, so he would have a larger Supreme Court that would have more people who would rule in his favor. So there are presently only 9 justices on the Supreme Court. So he wanted to increase the size of the Supreme Court. So,
That was very political.
it was very political, but it didn't work. It didn't work, in fact, because the other co-equal branch of government and Americans said, no, this is not how we behave as Americans. We respect the rule of law. We're a country of law, and no one is above the rule of law, not even the President of the United States.
I know. You see, your experience is so interesting. Now, talking to you is so different than speaking to someone on the side of the road or some guys just sitting having lunch or dinner, because they will just be giving their opinion and voicing what they hear on the news,
Wow.
which may not necessarily be authentic.
This is true.
But as a judge, I mean, you have studied these things. You know the ins and outs and the pros and cons. So But you see the wonderful point you brought up there.
Right.
That interesting. That is very interesting because people would want to know. I mean, the president fired the director, FBI director,
he can.
kind of touched the judge.
Right.
He makes a decision
Right.
on, because, you know, some people might say, well, President Obama was weak, not knowing that it's just certain decisions that if he makes,
Right.
the Constitution or the judges can overrule.
Right.
And similarly, Mr. Trump, President Trump, can say certain things,
Right.
and people might get scared not knowing that that may not be a decision. It has to go through.
Right. If it's challenged in court,
If it's challenged in court,
the courts can actually overturn a decision that's made by the executive branch. Not only them, remember I said that there are three co-equal branches. So the legislature also has power. Because for each of these executive agencies that the President of the United States is in charge of, whether it's the Environmental Protection Agency, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms and Explosives, or the FBI, there is a corresponding committee within the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States that has oversight authority for these agencies. So although they can't hire and fire the people in the agencies, they can call them, they can subpoena them to come to Capitol Hill to a hearing in which they can ask them questions about what they're doing and question the behavior that they're taking, even if they're following the directive of the President of the United States.
wow.
Right. So it really is three.
And you know, that is what really makes America great.
Yes.
I must give credit. That
Yes.
gives America that credibility, not only as the most powerful democratic country in the world,
Right.
but it is really one of, if not it's really the greatest country when
Right.
it comes to its justice system.
Without a doubt.
It is the greatest country, and I think the justice system is what makes America so great.
Oh, I agree. I believe the rule of law, the justice system, the direct election of our representatives, including our president, all of that is what makes us great.
Really makes this country great.
Right, because we're not the biggest democracy. India is the biggest democracy.
Well, I mean, that's why I say it's the most
Right.
powerful.
Right, right.
You know, the biggest
Right,
democracy is
right.
one thing, but the most
Right.
powerful democratic country, because a lot of
true.
these other countries are so corrupted.
Oh,
The justice system is so corrupted.
Right.
It is really corrupted. And, I really love the justice system, the political system in America.
Right.
And that's what, God bless America, because that's why God has blessed America. If you can be just and you can be honest with your system, you can get definitely the blessings from God and the protection. I mean, human beings are human beings, and we make errors, etc. So, Judge Hammond, tell me a little bit about your operation again.
okay.
So you based in your office is in the courthouse in Broward County.
In both. All right. So in Miami, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm down in Miami-Dade County. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm up here in Broward.
In the Broward courthouse.
Exactly. So, but I'm doing the same types of cases. So I'm doing a very limited set of cases. I know we talked about the Article 3 judges before.
Yeah.
Well, there are other types of judges. There are bankruptcy court judges, there are immigration judges, there are social security judges, and that's what I do. So I do
Social security judges.
Exactly. So I decide cases based on Article 2 and Article 16 of the Social Security Act that has to do with the disability of persons in the United States. So it's also very interesting. So think about this. Someone who has worked in the United States for a number of years.
Social security.
Right.
So this is what we talk, social. Oh, so we're talking about that social security that
Right.
people always talk about, what they get when they
Exactly,
retire, when they get
exactly.
old.
Exactly.
But that's an important area because everybody got to get there.
Exactly. So it's 1/4. So we handle 1/4 of the economy of the United States.
Oh, wow.
These judges who are making these decisions, they're handling 1/4 of the economy of the United States. So let's set aside what you get when you retire. But what we mostly deal with is what you get when you become, unfortunately, disabled in America.
Okay.
So in many other countries in the world, when you become disabled...
That's why you say disability.
That's right.
Okay.
When you become disabled in other countries in the world, you don't necessarily have any help from the government. You may turn to the masjid, you may turn to the church, right? Or the
Right.
temple or the Gurdwara for some help. But the government doesn't necessarily help you. In the United States of America, if you've worked under Title II and you become disabled, whether it's a medical
So
disability.
what is Title II here now?
So Title II has to do with people who have worked under the Social
Look,
Security
why
Act.
I ask that, because
Right.
I've always heard from accountants
Right.
that if you don't do your tax in a certain way,
Right.
you will not get back from Social Security.
Well, it's-
And if you do certain things the right way, you're entitled to get back after you retire or
Right.
disability.
Right.
So what is that all
So
about?
what it is, you have to work what's called a certain number of quarters to
Okay.
be eligible for disability benefits under Social Security Title II. All right? But without getting into the weeds, this is it. You've worked, let's say that you've worked 5 years. I'm just
Okay.
using an arbitrary figure.
And what is like the
You've
minimum?
worked 5 years. People can get Title II after having worked 1 year in the United States. So you could be an immigrant from another country, and you come here to the United States, and I'm an immigrant, right? And after working for 1 year, you become disabled. Let's say you're working for Lowe's or for Home Depot, and while you're there, you strain your back lifting up a boiler.
Okay, so it's just
Right?
natural.
So you can no longer even get up out of your bed, right? So you would apply to the Social Security Administration within the state that you're in, and they would make, if they make a decision to terminate, to not grant you a disability payment, you would then appeal that decision to an appellate council within your state, and if that appellate council then turns you down, then you would appeal to the court on which I sit. Right? So we're the court that's first hearing your case for your disability payments. So you would come into us and you would say, I suffer from bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, I suffer from diabetes mellitus, I suffer from a congenital heart defect.
So how does someone who is not working
Right.
or hasn't been working for Lowe's or Home Depot,
Good.
self-employed, doing their own sales and business here and there, paying their taxes,
Yes.
how do they get Social Security?
Similarly under Title II. But even if you've never worked,
Uh-huh.
let's say, Sheikh, that you've come to this country, and on the day that you land here in the United States, right, you slip and fall at the pier. Right?
That's interesting.
And so you've damaged your back, and as a result of damaging your back, you went into severe depression. So you're saying, I'm unable to do any type of work.
Okay.
Then you would apply under Title 16 of the Social Security Act for disability payments after having never worked. Right? And
That's a person who landed as a legal resident or...
as a legal resident, but they've never worked
Okay,
a
good,
day of their
good,
life in the United
good,
States.
good,
Or
good.
you've lived here all your life. You're a citizen who's lived here all
Yes,
life,
yes.
and you've just never worked. You've chosen not to work. Not to work. You can apply under Title 16 if you become disabled. And we will evaluate, it's the same process, but we'll evaluate your case and we'll make a decision as to whether or not
Wow.
you should be getting benefits from the federal government, from you, Sheikh Fayed, from taxpayers
So
like
the
you.
person did not work,
At
did
all.
not pay taxes,
Right.
but can be entitled to receive Social Security benefits, or
Title
social
16.
services benefits.
That's right.
Wow,
For the rest
that
of their
is-
lives.
That is interesting.
Right. It really is interesting. So those are basically the cases that we handle. So we see a lot of sad cases, cases of, especially cases involving children, children with horrible disabilities, right, who are in need of help in order to make it.
I was about to
older
ask you
people.
that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know I have to be cutting you
Right.
here and there.
Sorry, go ahead.
The difference here now is in the program because I want to benefit so much from you and want our audience worldwide
Right.
to benefit. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to make a decision that you really pity that case, but you could not make a decision in their favor?
Every day.
Truly?
Yeah. So so in order for me to make a decision,
Yeah.
one, I have to find that you have a medically diagnosed disability.
Wow.
So you may come into the courtroom in a wheelchair and say to me, I can't get up out of this wheelchair. But if a doctor hasn't diagnosed you with some medical malady, I can't grant you your case. Or
Does that put you through sleepless nights?
of course it does.
Oh my
it,
gosh.
it pains my heart. Or you may not be able to get disability because it's not covered by that period. Remember we talked about working for a certain number of quarters?
Yeah.
Well, when you work for a certain number of quarters, you have what's called a date of last insurance that's projected into the future. So you've been working through May of 2018. Your day of last insurance, in all likelihood, is probably sometime in 2021. But let's say that you become disabled in April of 2021, but you don't apply for Social Security disability until June of 2021.
Wow.
Right? And then, on the Title II, And when you apply undecided to, you come before me, and you really are disabled now. You really you're suffering
Yeah,
from
yeah.
lymphomatic cancer or some really debilitating illness, and then you come before us, and we're going to deny the case because we're going to say your date of last insurance is before the
I
date
know
that we can adjudicate.
that's sad. How
And that tears your heart apart.
I know, because you're a judge, you're feeling so sorry, so sad for these cases.
Right.
You can see them crying. Wow, that could put you through some sleepless nights.
Definitely, definitely.
But then you have no choice. You got to
have to
do
go-
what is the law and what's the...
You see, Sheikh, it's what I said at the beginning of the program. We're a country of the rule of law. That's
Yes.
what makes us great.
Yeah.
So it's not about a person or how you feel. It's what the law says.
And that really makes America the greatest nation on earth. Because
Very
that
different.
justice system. Because you're there to help.
Right. Oh, yes.
But you have to help in the right perspective.
within the parameters.
Within
of
the
law.
parameters and the Constitution. Well, we have been speaking a lot. We have, I would think, we have gone for more than 20 minutes already. We're going to have to go on a short break.
Okay.
We're going to have to go on a short break. This is like you, case adjourned, right? But the case is not adjourned. We're going to come back. We're on a little short break, and when we get back, I would like to still get some of your experience, a few minutes to share on your time when you worked at the district attorney's office.
Oh, definitely.
And or the U.S. Attorney Office, Manhattan, here.
Right.
You know, it's an interesting experience.
Definitely.
It's a blessed opportunity.
Wow.
So I would like you to share that with our listening audience, our viewers worldwide. We have people view this really worldwide, east, west, north, and south, the kind of feedback we get from people all over the world.
Correct.
And a man like you, of so many walks in life, and your experience with Muslims and Islam,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
important because a lot of people out there think that Americans don't know about Muslims and Islam.
Wow.
Not knowing that there are people who know. We just got to make it known what is happening, the known
Right.
from the unknown. So thank you again, Judge Norman Hemming, for being with us on Al Hikmat TV, for being with us in Al Hikmat studio. When we come back after the short break, we'll continue benefiting more from the experiences and the knowledge of a very prominent person of the United States of America, Mr. Judge Norman Hemming.
Al Hikmat Services, serving the Muslim community and non-Muslim community. Dawah and interfaith activities, distribution of Quran and Islamic publications, sponsoring students to study Islam, Al Hikmat Da'i, Dawah and Interfaith Institute. Also, Friday sermons by Sheikh Shafait are live on alhikmattv.com from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Download our free Al Hikmat TV app on your mobile devices. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to donate to Al Hikmat Dawah Services online with a credit card or PayPal at alhikmat.com. For more details, contact Al Hikmat office at 1-800-804-0267 or our local number 954-986-0158 and visit us at www.alhikmat.com. Jazakallah khair.
Welcome back to Al Hikmat TV, Who is Who in America, on Al Hikmat TV 24/7 online. It is indeed a pleasure to continue discussing and learning from our good friend in the office, Al Hikmat office, Al Hikmat studio here today, Mr. Judge Norman Hemming. And I want to make sure I get the judge's name correct. You know, you cannot mess around with a judge. So it's a pleasure again to have you with us, and I really do enjoy what we have been learning from you, and I'm sure our viewers out there would have benefited a lot.
Right.
During the short break, you
Yes.
mentioned something, and I
Right.
think that is so powerful.
Right.
You have reached these different levels in the United States of America, U.S. Attorney's Office, presently a judge, District Attorney Office in Manhattan, the Army experience, the legal justice system. Would you like to share with the audience and our viewers worldwide
Yes.
as a motivation to our people?
Oh, wow.
How, when you came here, from where you came to what God has blessed you with now?
Wow. So we came from Jamaica. When we left down Jamaica, the family was only allowed to take $56 with us. And so we settled in a one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx, New York. And in that one-bedroom apartment, there were my parents, but also 6 of us were biologically my parents' children. And then there are 4 other children who they didn't legally adopt, but they were responsible for, they took care of, who were also living there. So
10
10 kids.
Kids.
Yeah, right. That's my mom is just an amazing,
and the
loving,
parents in one apartment.
and crazy person.
Oh my God!
Right.
Yes.
And so we, my bedroom was my bed was the floor of that apartment. And my
Wow.
clothes, like all my brothers and sisters' clothes, was in a black garbage bag. So each of us had our own black, hefty garbage
So your
bag.
cabinet or wardrobe
That's right.
was a garbage bag.
That's right.
Wow.
And
You need to share
and
this
it's-
with some of the kids today.
Oh no, definitely. And it's interesting because my mom worked as a housekeeper in Long Island, New York, and so she literally left us alone. Right, my father was soon out of the picture. So, but she used to tell us. She says, "Look, you're alone at home. You're what I call latchkey children. Don't make too much noise, because if the neighbors hear and realize that you're there by yourself, then they could call the police and could get her arrested."
Wow.
You know?
But she had to go to work.
But she had to
take
go to
care of
work
you
to
all.
take care of us.
Yes, yes, I
so
understand.
we had to, become self-sufficient on our own. So each day that they would give away free food at whatever the location was, whether it was a masjid or it was at a church or it was at a government
Wow.
location, I would go and stand in line and wait to get some free bread, to get some free cheese, whatever the free food was that they were giving us, so that we would have something to eat. Because my mom didn't earn a lot, certainly not enough to feed
10
all of
kids.
us. But my mom was an amazing person who really believed in God first, primarily, but also she used to tell us this every single day. She said, "The heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, kept toiling upwards in the night." What she was teaching us was that there's nothing that we couldn't accomplish if we put our heads to it and our hearts to it, and we put the time in to it. And so I continue to tell that to my own kids and to everyone that I meet, that all of us have the same size brain. There's no one with a larger brain than the other person. The question is, will you work hard enough to make of yourself what God has destined for you?
Yeah, everybody got the same size of brain, but it's how much do we use?
Exactly.
And do we use it at all?
Exactly.
Wow,
So that
that's
was
a great sacrifice. You know, you're a wonderful example to other people. That's very motivational. You know, a lot of students think because we have nothing or kids, we will never be anything. And
Wow.
for you to let people know, you know, your cupboard or your wardrobe or whatever
Yes.
was a garbage bag and your bed was
Floor.
the floor. You know, sometimes I try telling my students that when I was studying, I slept on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, when we were
course.
studying in the university in
Yeah,
India,
yeah.
I mean, it's so many thousands of people. So it was just a little mattress, like a little sponge on the floor.
Yeah.
I was 8 people in a room.
See, kids today don't understand.
They don't understand that.
You know, it's interesting. Even a little anecdotal story about going to law school. When I got into law school, I went to Howard University School of Law, and I had a full scholarship for tuition.
You went to?
Howard University School of Law, for tuition and for books. It didn't cover housing, so I had no idea how I was going to pay for housing. And you're not allowed to work in your first year of law school. And I remember I talked to my mom about this housekeeper, but she was the smartest person that I've ever known in my life. She just had so much common sense and just so brilliant. But she said, "Listen, I've prayed about it. Go down to school there. God is going to provide a place for you to live." And Sheikh, I was so dumb. I actually believed my mom because she's always been right.
Right.
So I went down to Washington, D.C. and walked the halls of the Howard University campus, looking at the
Yes.
pictures of the graduates before me. And while I was doing that, a young man came up to me and and introduced himself. He was getting ready to start his 3rd year of law school. And he said, "Where are you living?" I said, "I'm not living anywhere." And he laughed. He said, No, seriously, where are you living? I said, "Seriously, I have nowhere to live." He said, "Well, you have somewhere to live now. You can live with me for at least the next year until I leave school." It's just to show you how this little woman and her belief in God and that God would provide, how that totally dramatically changed my life, right? And allowed me to actually remain in law school
Wow.
and be able to finish law school.
That is so deep.
You know?
Yeah, but you got to remember, not only she's just a little woman, but she's the woman that God made you.
Wow.
God sent her as your mother.
Yes.
So as big as you are, she will be bigger than that.
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
God sent her to
yes.
produce you.
Wow.
That's interesting, huh?
Interesting.
And then if she was the person that housed you
Her,
for 9 months,
yes.
definitely she knows about your housing
Wow.
and your residence.
Can
See,
you-
God-
wow,
remember,
that's
God
interesting.
chose her to be
Yes. My
that
house
area.
for 9
She
months.
was your house.
Literally.
And if she was your house, she
Right.
definitely, with her words and gift from God,
Right.
when she tells you you will get a place to live,
Her.
believe it, it will happen.
And it happened.
I don't think people understand the power of God and the connection with God and parents.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
remember, we were talking a little while ago in the beginning how the president appoints the judges and the
Right.
president.
Right.
Remember, parents are appointed by God.
It's true.
And
It's
that's a position that cannot be fired. Huh?
Wow. That's right. You can't fire
Think
your
you
parents.
cannot fire a parent. Doesn't matter what you think.
Right. Right.
Because that was appointed by God. So certain things people don't understand, even though it did not make sense that you're going to Washington
Right.
and there is no house.
Right.
But the words carried the blessings
Definitely.
and the guidance came with it. And that really humankind cannot understand.
Definitely.
I mean, as a judge, you probably see things and you got to go with the witnesses and the justification and,
Right.
as you said, the legality and the
Right.
medical documents
Right.
and whatever to make a decision.
Yes.
But I'm sure you see things happen just blow your mind.
Oh, all the time.
But God can just do whatever he does.
All the time. So after my first year of law school, I went back to New York and drove a cab in New York.
Wow.
Right, in order to make money for that summer. And I don't know if you can see, but in the center of my forehead, there is a round hole that's patched over with my skin. You can see the skin where it's separated.
Yeah.
Well, while driving a cab in New York, I picked up a fare in the Bronx, and he was telling me where he lived and to take him to. And I said to him, there are no houses on that street. That's an industrial area. He says, no, there's one house there. Although it was against my better judgment, I went along with him and took him to that street. And he said, slow down, you're approaching my house. And when I slowed down, he used a crowbar and ripped it through my skull. I was discovered the next morning by a Korean grocer who was opening his store. And he called 911 and had an ambulance take me to the hospital. I don't know what was happening because I was unconscious.
But why would he do that?
To get $64, which is what I had on me, right, as a cab driver in New York. And I remember I could hear the doctors talking to my mom and telling her, at best, he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. He's definitely not going to be able to finish school. What do you want us to do? And I remember hearing my mom, although I couldn't speak, I remember hearing her saying, no, you don't understand. I've already prayed to God.
Wow.
And God has told me that my son is going to be a lawyer. So I don't know what is going to happen, but whatever you need to do, you make it happen. Because my son's going to leave this place, this hospital. Then he's going to become an attorney. And so through the prayers of my
And
mom.
you're hearing that, but you can't do anything.
But I can't do anything.
Wow. Isn't that the
but
power
listen,
of God?
But God worked, right? He actually,
Wow.
because I was able to go back to school, and I'm not a vegetable, and I am able to speak. And although my wife will tell you that I am a little touched in the head, I am still able to do my job.
Wow, wow. So
God is
we may have to
merciful.
start calling you, in addition to Judge Norman Hemming, Miracle Child.
Wow. No, God is just merciful. Because
God
I wasn't
is
deserving.
merciful.
I was certainly not deserving. But
Wow.
He saw fit to allow me to live.
With those kind of experiences and where you came from and what you are now, it is people like you, and that's why I feel very blessed in Al Hikmat studio here to have someone like you with us on this program, Who is Who in America on Al Hikmat TV. Because when you share these kind of experiences, it really motivates our viewers out there. Not only will they learn about you and your career, but they will be motivated that they can one day become you.
Wow.
And that is a blessing. So I know you said that the office that you are in right now in Miami is located in the immigration building.
Yes.
So that's where most of the judges are.
Right.
And they use that for different legal aspects in the courts, etc.
That's right.
Okay. Now, when you were in the U.S. Attorney Office,
Yes.
what did you really do? What was your description, job
All right.
description,
So-
basically?
So I was a part of the executive team. I was what's called special counsel to the United States Attorney. So there's a 5-person executive team at the U.S. Attorney's Office. There is the U.S. Attorney himself, who at the time was Wilfredo Ferrer, and I went through a number of U.S. attorneys. And then you had the executive assistant U.S. Attorney, you had me, the special counsel to the U.S. Attorney, and then you had 2 others. You had a media person, and you had 1 other person that had to do with training. And the 5 of us ran the office. The office was split up into different offices throughout the entire South Florida area. There are 3 U.S. Attorney's offices for the U.S. Department of Justice in the state of Florida, and there are some 93 offices nationwide that are U.S. Attorney's offices that are part of the U.S. Department of Justice. But our job is to do both civil and criminal cases. So we prosecuted drug cases that you would imagine. We also did Medicare fraud cases. We also did tax evasion cases. But at the same time,
So your department is the department that will have the prosecutors,
that's exactly
that will prosecute people
right.
who, whatever, you
Whatever
hear all
the
these cases,
federal crime.
and then you have the government, U.S. prosecutor who will take them to
Exactly.
court.
But at the same time, the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Department of Justice also has a civil division. So not only did we prosecute cases, we also defended the government. Like, say, for instance, and these are horrible cases.
Okay.
Say, for instance, you had a U.S. postal worker who, in driving and delivering the mail, inadvertently runs over a 2-year-old child. We don't publicize these types of cases because they're horrible. But we would defend the United States against a suit from that child's parents seeking to recover monies for the death of their child. Right? So that's another aspect of the job that we also did. Also, if you had, God forbid, and it happened unfortunately, a U.S. veteran who is going to the VA hospital, and the VA hospital in doing colonoscopies, say for instance, failed to properly clean the colonoscopy equipment, so they were transmitting AIDS from one patient or HIV from one patient to another, then the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Department of Justice would also defend the Veterans Administration Hospital against those lawsuits.
Excellent,
Right.
excellent.
So it's both prosecutor and defense.
Prosecute and defense,
Right.
all for U.S.
All for the United States of America, all within one office.
one office. That's
Right.
interesting. That is really phenomenal.
Right. And there are a 3rd set of cases that we did, and those cases are what are called KETAM cases. And KETAM cases are like the following. Let's say that you were working at some pharmaceutical company, and you found out that the pharmaceutical company was cutting corners in terms of not putting enough of medication in the drugs that they were sending out. Well, you would bring your attorney as a private citizen.
And they could do that, eh?
Well, yeah.
They can give you a tube, and I have
Right.
seen that sometimes. I'm glad you brought that up. You see a tube,
Right.
looks big, full. When you open the cover and you squeeze, it's empty all the way here.
But sometimes that's intentional, but sometimes it's a crime.
Okay,
Sometimes it's
okay.
them trying to get money. It's trying
But
to
that's
make
how
extra
they can
funds.
make, because they tell you X amount of ounces
And
or
it's not-
grams.
if it's not in there,
and it's
that's
not
a
in
problem.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but those KETAM cases that are initially brought by the private citizen, we, the U.S. Attorney's Office, would adopt those cases. So we'd take them over, and then we would run with those cases after.
Okay.
So that's another
So
thing
that
that we
becomes
do.
a matter that the U.S.
Right.
Attorney Office can pick up against the pharmacy or the pharmaceutical office.
Exactly. And the other thing that we did in that office, which is interesting, is that in South Florida in particular, we have what's called the East Everglades. And if all of our water supply for this area of Florida and for most of Florida comes as a result of the cleaning properties of the East. You know, in the Caribbean, in Trinidad or in Guyana, Sheikh, when people talk about wetlands or talk about swamp,
Yes.
they look down on it.
The swamp,
Well,
yeah.
the swamp actually is designed by God. It's a natural filtering mechanism for our water supply that replenishes pure drinking water for us to have. Well, in South Florida, because we have a very high water table and we're surrounded by the saline ocean, we didn't care for our wetlands because we looked at it in the same way for too many years. And so we abused it. And so this thing that was designed to clean our water in terms of the aquifers that were out there, started getting contaminated with salt water. So what we did as part of the U.S. Attorney's Office is that we went out and purchased, using what's called the power of eminent domain, we purchased over 276,000 acres in the state of Florida to return the natural water flows for that swamped area, the East Everglades, right? So that's another thing that the U.S. Attorney's Office did on behalf of the Department of Justice. So it's multifaceted what the Department of Justice
You see, a lot of
does.
people don't understand the kind of
Right.
things that go on that really makes America the greatest country in the world, the
Right.
greatest nation. I
Right.
mean, it's so many services that the world and people from all over the globe, they come here to benefit from. And
Right.
there's a lot of work in the making.
Exactly.
Yes, I know we, time just goes.
Yes.
When we started the second part of the show, we already went approximately 19 to 20 minutes. Would
Wow.
you believe that? But anyhow, we got 4 or 5 minutes to wrap up this
All right.
this talk show.
Right.
Judge Norman Hemming. I would also like to ask you a very interesting question, and I think this is very interesting in addition to all that we have benefited from your legal background. Did you get into religion before you got into the legal system, or you got into the legal system first and then religion? Or maybe let me be direct.
Yeah.
A reverend. You are also a reverend.
That's right.
Did you become a reverend before becoming a lawyer or a judge, or which came first?
I became a lawyer first because I was running away from God. I didn't want to have a part of,
Wow,
which is
I like
sad,
that.
right?
I like that. I
Literally.
like that.
Right.
You
And
wanted to get
so-
into the world.
Exactly. I wanted to do law, and that was what was important to me. And but my grandma, that same my mother's mom, she had lined all of us up as her grandchildren, and she had told everyone what they were going to do when they got older in life. And so she
Interesting.
said, "You're going to be a lawyer, but you're also going to be a preacher. You're going to preach the word of God." And I said, "Yeah, that doesn't make any sense," right? Because the two seem to be in conflict. And so I ran from that for so many years. But then after law school, I left the Manhattan DA's office, where I was prosecuting state-based crimes in New York City, and went to work as Regional Criminal Enforcement Counsel for the Environmental Protection Agency in Atlanta. That covered all the states in the southeastern United States. And while I actually was there, one of the attorneys who was on staff for the Environmental Protection Agency was this devout Christian and a pastor. And every day he would come to me and he would say to me, "You know, the Lord has a calling on your life. God has more for you to do than just
Interesting.
attending a service. You know, he
Interesting.
wants to use you. Why don't you make yourself available?" And I was I was so taken aback, because it's the same things that my grandmother used to tell me. And when
Wow.
I thought I had run away from this, so you know what I did? I literally chose to leave that job to go work for the U.S. Department of Justice to get away from him. Because if I get away from him, I
My
won't hear
goodness.
this in my ear.
And you will feel guilty.
And I will feel guilty. So I went to work at Main Justice in Washington. And while working at Main Justice in Washington, I started attending with my family this church in Shiloh, Virginia, in Stafford, Virginia. And while attending the church, the pastor took me aside after the first day. And he said, "You know, the Lord has a calling on your life.
Interesting.
He wants for you to preach his word. And you're more than just a lawyer, right? That's just what you do to make a living. But what you should do for your life is to preach God's word." And I said, "What is going on here? Is someone like sending letters or emails
Yes,
around the country?"
yes,
And it really convicted me. And that's when I yielded. I said, "God, I
And what
yield,
state
I
was
yield
this?
to you." This is in Virginia.
Virginia.
I said, "I yield to you, Lord. You know, obviously there's something that you want for me to do. I've been running from this thing, but I yield."
So then you
You
went
know?
to a seminary
So
to
I went to
study?
seminary to
After
study
being a lawyer?
After being a lawyer and working at the U.S.
And
Department of
after
Justice.
practicing law,
And practicing law.
you went to a seminary to
Yes.
become a reverend
That's right.
in Virginia?
In Virginia. Shiloh
Right.
Theological Seminary.
Listen, that is phenomenal. And I mean, you had to share that with the world, because a lot of people think when you're a lawyer, or you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you know, you are in the world, you don't need to get into God's world. But you know what I love? You wanted to know the law of the land.
Right.
So you wanted to be a lawyer.
Right.
Your mother wanted you to preach the word of God.
Huh.
But hear what that was really. God wanted you to know the law of God, God's law,
Wow.
which is the law of the world.
Yes.
Now, knowing the law of the land in America is different to knowing the law of the world, which is God's law.
It's true.
When you study God's law, it's the law of the world, you know. You can go
Wow.
anywhere in the world, it's the same law. Isn't that interesting?
That is so true, Sheikh.
If you go to India or Japan or China, you got to go over their system
Right. That's so true.
because they will have different laws.
Right.
I mean, you'll have the basic principle, but
Right.
they will have different things.
Decided.
The law differs in different lands.
Right.
That's interesting. So God wanted you to be a man of God's law.
Right. So,
You are really blessed. I think it has been a pleasure to have you with us on our show. We have been speaking for 45 minutes now, Judge.
wow. It does seem like we just started.
How many cases you would have done in 45 minutes?
But actually,
You could close a case in 5 minutes, right?
unfortunately, I can't. But and for this reason is that there are other witnesses, right? So I bring in expert witnesses. So if it's a cancer case, I'll bring an oncologist in to
Okay.
testify and to give
Okay.
evidence. I'll also bring in what's called a vocational expert, an expert in jobs, who will come in and tell and let me know what he or she thinks the types of jobs are that this person could do, whether it's at a sedentary level or at a light work level or at a medium or a heavy work level, right? So so there are different experts that I have to bring into the case.
So you got to hear both
So I
sides.
have to hear both sides.
You know, I want to close
Right.
the show, but I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
Maybe we need to get an immigration judge.
Oh, wow. That
I'll
would
tell
be
you
good.
why.
Yes.
I've always heard people say that an immigration judge will look at you and can make a decision before.
Right. No, they
If
actually,
he's not in a good mood, he looks at you and he has really decided case closed. No granting of status.
well,
Is that really true?
I would like to think not. I'd like to think that
You would like to
immigration-
think not, but
Right,
it doesn't
and-
mean it's
but-
not true.
Well, I work for the federal government, and I'd like to think that all
I like
federal
that. I like
federal
that.
employees stand by the law and obey the law, and that their rulings are based on the law and not on a whim or their feelings.
But my reason for asking that,
Right,
Judge, is
right,
because you
right.
walk through immigration sometime, the officer looks at you,
Right.
he can ask you 40 questions.
Yes.
Another officer looks at you, hi, how are you doing?
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's very different.
Is it something to do with a mood, or they don't even look? I mean, I know they have the prerogative to do that.
But there's certain things that they're looking for. So some things are profiled. Like, for instance, when there was an airline called Air Jamaica, someone coming off an Air Jamaica flight who purchased their ticket in cash the day before the flight and who is coming to the United States and doesn't eat while they're on board the flight attendant says, yeah, we offered them whatever. And they didn't take it, and they didn't drink anything. And then as soon as you came off the flight, you went straight to the men's room or to the ladies' room. Those are all indicia that we're looking for someone who we need to do some secondary screening on. Right? So it's interesting. Exactly. So there are different reasons why you might be pulled over at the airport. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes immigration officers are wrong. That the person who they think fits a certain profile, right, is not in fact committing any type of crime, but it's just a regular traveler.
With the investigation,
Right.
Peter pays for Paul and Paul pays for all.
Exactly.
Meaning you end up have to pick up a few other people to
Exact-
catch the right person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was really
know?
interesting. Is there anything else you would like to share? I know there's so much we could have spoken about, but I love your call
Right.
to the Word of God and the law of God.
The most important thing that I'd like to talk about, that I'd like to share in closing, if you
Yes,
permit me.
yes, of course.
is
You have the
that,
closing.
In terms of your listening audience and your viewing audience, that everyone would be respectful of other people, regardless of the person's religion. Because this is a small earth on which we're living. But we can all live together in peace and in harmony if we're respectful and caring and loving one to another. So allow that to be what closes our program.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, Judge Norman Hemming. It has really been a blessing from God to have you with us in Al Hikmah Studio. It's an honor for us, a privilege for me to sit with you and talk and learn so much from you. And I'm sure our viewers worldwide would have benefited to know a man that came just off the soil of Jamaica here from scratch to what you are now. It is definitely the blessings from God, the grace of God. So it has been a pleasure to have Judge Norman Hemming with us on Who is Who in America on Al Hikmah TV 24/7 online. Stay tuned. Feel free to check us out on Facebook, Al Hikmah TV, YouTube, other national television network. We have a blessed audience worldwide, and we want to pray that God continue to bless you. We get good feedback from people throughout the world. Thank you for viewing, and may God continue to bless Judge Norman Hemming. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
Allah